Hi everybody, my name is Lucinda, and a few months ago I did a video about Manchelopi and wool dreamers and how we could use it in many different ways. It's a brand new wool, but since that video I've had many chances to experiment with it and to use it in different ways. As you can see, I'm wearing my Miles shirt jacket from Ozetta. It is cozy, it's lightweight, so it keeps you warm when it needs to, and if it's just a windy day but not super cold, it's just perfect for hanging out. Being outdoors, and it has some really great features like the curved hem at the bottom. I will put link to any of the patterns that I have discussed in this video in my description below, so please be sure to take a look at that and look at the different patterns that we are showing. So the first thing that I wanted to say is, as we recall, the Manchelopi comes double-stranded. In many of the patterns, you will knit it already as a double strand, which means that it's going to be a DK or worsted strand. If you separate it, it'll be more like a fingering. And so in that, you would just carefully separate. So first things first, let's talk about why we would want to separate it and how can we use it once it is separated. So if you use it as a fingering weight is one strand, and it would be much lighter and much lighter and airier of a fabric, so it wouldn't be as warm. So perhaps for the summertime or early fall, you may want to do it single-stranded. Another reason is because then you can add a silk mohair, and it really keeps a nice light and lofty weight. So it takes time to separate it. But like I said, when we knit with it, it's going to be, we're going to take our time and not stress out. So when I separated a blue for a little bindle bag that Ozetta's publishing this Saturday, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So the way that I did it is, first you grab a glass of wine, and then you just sit and you start separating the two pieces. So I unroll so that I can get enough going, and I just take a little bit around my fingers, and I put 2 to 3 fingers, and I start winding loosely. I don't want it to be particularly taut, as it will stretch it out and make it thinner. So then once you have a little bit, then you wrap it again over your fingers and you keep going. You do that with each of the 2 strands, and you just keep going. I unwind a bit from the main ball, and I roll in a little bit. I unwind and I go back. And seriously, it may be joking to have a glass of wine, but you know, sometimes you're just tired and you just want to sit around and have yarn through your fingers, and that's a good moment for you to be separating them. I won't do it right now, but first off, I wanted to show you my little bindle bag. That's a pattern coming out, and I will put the link there once it is released. And this here is my bindle bag. So the bindle bag is a carrying bag that you can use to store your treasures, do your projects. I have actually been putting my notions bag inside so that I can carry my stitch markers, my little scissors, although the scissors are protected because you wouldn't want this to be damaged in any way. So in this case, it is knit with 1 strand of the yarn single and a silk mohair. So these are not my actual colors, but I just wanted to show you that I used 1 strand of the Manchelopi for my bag, and I used 1 strand of Anatolia from Julie Asselin. We have made kits, and I'll put a link to that in our comments. So these 2 give it a little bit of a sturdiness. You don't want to put anything too thick. I was thinking maybe we could use the Cumulus from Fiber Space, but it's really quite thick, and you wouldn't see the Manchelopi as much, so you'd lose a little bit of that being able to see the rustic plus the shiny of the silk mohair. So you want to make sure to keep with a lightweight silk mohair. I just have it stuffed in with some Art Yarns silk mohair that would be equally beautiful. The next one I want to experiment with a little bit of a multi mohair and see how it gives. You have 2 strands. And for those asking, the bottom is reinforced, so it's knit double. It's thicker than the rest of the bag. So this winds very easily into 2 cakes. It'll take you 1 cake to make this size, as well as one of these skeins of Anatolia from Julie Asselin. Once you divide it, you will have 2 balls, and 1 ball will make 1 bag. And so with 1 cake, you will end up with 2 bags. So here we go. It knitted up super simple. The silk mohair gives it a little bit of strength, and it gives it a little bit of shine and interest for the texture there. I love this double moss stitch, or and it's also called, I think, double seed stitch, depending on where you are located. So to me, that's really a lot of fun. It wasn't breaking really as often. I thought that the single strand would break and I'd be kind of miserable trying to work with it single. But if you're in the zen of knitting, it actually goes really nicely and it does not break quite as often as I would have thought. So now I'm also knitting a pattern by Jennifer Steingass. And what I'm doing is I'm holding it single, and I'm doing stranded knitting with an Art Yarns 2-ply mohair, silk mohair, and I'm using 1 strand of the Manchelopi. I wanted a really lightweight and lofty sweater. The one thing that's nice about this is that with the stranded knitting, if you look at the back, the silk mohair will put it together and give it a little bit of resistance and a little bit more sturdiness than if it was just the Manchelopi by itself. So you can see the design on the back, which is really cool, but I'm looking forward to get advancing on this one. So I've been doing just lots of fun experiments, and you could knit it single. I generally knit Colorwork with 1 color in each hand, and I did not find it particularly difficult, and I find it went rather smoothly. So a couple of other things that I'd like to show you that I did, and this sweater back here is the Badger in Bloom by Anne Vencel, and this was done by Andrea Blumenthal and is absolutely gorgeous. It's the unisex size, and actually it's perhaps quite boxy. So if you use the unisex sizing, make sure that you go down in size because it will be a little bigger. She's helping me out right now, and she's doing one that's in the pink and the chocolate. So we call this one the mint chocolate chip one because it reminds us of that. So then I wanted to show you a shawl that I did, and the pattern will be coming out soon. And I did this on a 6.5 needle. And so you get a very lightweight summery shawl. If I wanted it to be thicker for the fall or winter, I would do it with smaller needles so that the fabric would be a little bit dense. But I wanted to be able to show you how it's very simple to take this into a summer weight or an late spring by doing it in a loftier, larger needle. I still don't have a name for this. I think it's going to be called Mota, which is the town where Wool Dreamers is in. And they have windmills. And so for me, these little eyelets are like the wheels, the pinwheels of the mills, of the windmills. So that's nice on a really big needle. And I also started working on a pattern by This Bird Knits, and I'm using an 8mm on this one, and I'm doing color work. So even on an 8mm, it makes it a little bit lighter, and it's really nice and light and lofty, and just absolutely fun for the color work. I'll just show you. People always want to see the inside of your color work. So I don't catch the floats, and that gives us a really nice and pretty way to see the motif. But it also means that by not catching the floats, you get a little bit of a stretchier fabric, and it doesn't pull in so much. So when it'll be time to block, it'll actually lay really super flat, although it's really lovely right now. I also experimented by taking it a step further, and I said, what if we double a Manchelopi? And so I doubled this Manchelopi, and I'm now at 4 strands of the Manchelopi, and I'm knitting the Clotilde cardigan by Pernille Larsen. And as you could see, I'm doing this on a 10mm, and it just has an amazing stitch definition, and it just looks so incredibly cool. It's going to be definitely an awesome piece to wear. I'll show you the lace on the back. There you go. An awesome piece for fall and winter, especially here in Quebec, where we get some really cold winters. So basically, I just wanted to do an update on this. Use your creativity. Take it in directions that you want to go, and make sure you just have fun, because it's really an amazing yarn, and it could be knit during the summertime, during the winter time, and there's just so many amazing things you can do with it and so many fun projects. I'm really looking forward to the Bindle bag coming out. This little bag coming out on Saturday, and there will be 2 sizes available. And so since I did the smaller of the 2, I'm looking forward to making the bigger one. Leave me any questions you may have, and I look forward to seeing you soon.